Jenkins spiked to 100% CPU and returned 503 errors. A plugin dependency conflict caused a class loading deadlock. Let's break down Jenkins plugins, how it works, and the exact mistake behind that failure. Think of Jenkins as the central brain of your CI/CD system. Plugins are like apps on a smartphone, they add new capabilities. But just as a bad app can freeze your phone, a bad plugin can crash Jenkins. Plugins share a class path, so conflicts can arise. Always check the Dependencies tab before installing. Use the CLI to list installed plugins, Java jar Jenkins CLI, jar list plugins. Always install plugins with a restart. Use a staging environment that mirrors production. Automate plugin management with configuration as code. Dependency conflicts are common. For example, the Git plugin and credentials plugin once caused a no such method error. We fixed it by downgrading Git. Maintain a dependency lock file. For single master, schedule updates during maintenance. Use safe restart to wait for running builds. Blue-green deployments ensure zero downtime. Plugins like Git and Docker provide steps like Git and Docker build. Use with credentials to bind secrets. Maintain a shared library for consistency. A misbehaving plugin can cause memory leaks. We once saw builds take 2x longer after installing checkstyle. Use the performance plugin to track trends. Plugins can introduce vulnerabilities. In 2022, a critical script security plugin CVI allowed code execution. Regularly scan and update. Remove unused plugins. Plugins store config in XML files. We use hourly incremental backups and test restore quarterly. Also backup the plugin list for exact reinstallation. Common errors, no such method error, class not found exception. Check the plugin version and compare with expected. Use Groovy to set debug logging level. Not all plugins are pipeline compatible. For example, Cobertura requires a separate pipeline plugin. Use the plugins block in declarative pipeline to pin versions. Use curl to install plugins via API. Groovy is powerful but dangerous. We have a plugin auditor job that generates reports daily. We reduced plugins from 150 to 80, improving stability. Each plugin goes through a lifecycle: request, review, test, approve, deploy, monitor, retire. This is the same issue we highlighted at the start. Here's exactly why that happened. The Sonar Quebec plugin required a newer version of Commons HTTP client, which conflicted with the Git plugin. This caused a class loading deadlock, freezing Jenkins. The Sonar Quebec plugin and Git plugin required incompatible versions of Commons HTTP client, causing a class loading deadlock that froze Jenkins. The fix was to remove the Sonar Quebec plugin jar and restart. Then, we downgraded the Git plugin to a compatible version. Always test plugins in staging first. The hook incident was caused by ignoring dependencies. Always check the dependency graph before installing. Pin plugin versions to avoid conflicts. Using deploy installs the plugin but doesn't restart. The plugin may not initialize properly, causing missing features or errors. Always follow with safe restart. Deprecated plugins may have security vulnerabilities or broken APIs. Regularly audit and replace them with actively supported alternatives. The article uses Java jar Jenkins CLI, jar commands. In Jenkins 2.44+, the CLI is deprecated in favor of the Jenkins CLI command or the HTTP API. For example, use Jenkins CLI list plugins instead of Java jar Jenkins CLI, jar list plugins. Check your Jenkins version's CLI documentation. The article mentions the REST API, but doesn't show a complete example. Here's a concrete snippet to install a plugin using curl with authentication, which is useful for automation. The article advises minimizing plugins and auditing them. In practice, large organizations often implement a plugin approval workflow using tools like the plugin usage plugin to track actual usage, and a plugin whitelist enforced via configuration as code. This prevents unnecessary plugins from being installed. To troubleshoot, first check the build log, then verify the plugin version with list plugins. Enable debug logging using the Groovy script shown. Let's run through some common interview questions. How to install a plugin via CLI? Use Java jar Jenkins CLI, jar install plugin name with authentication. Explain plugin dependency resolution. Jenkins reads manifest.mf, resolves dependencies automatically, warns on conflicts. Describe a production incident caused by a plugin conflict. Sonar Quebec plugin conflicted with Git plugin, causing deadlock. Fixed by removing plugin and downgrading. And a few frequently asked questions. What is a Jenkins plugin? A software package that extends Jenkins functionality. How to install a plugin? Via UI, manage Jenkins Plugin Manager or CLI, install plugin command. Do plugins require restart? Most do. Use install without restart, only for dynamic plugins, but it's risky. To summarize, plugins extend Jenkins but add complexity. Test before deploying, manage versions with code, monitor health, and keep a rollback plan. Ready to go deeper? Up next, Jenkins pipeline basics, then Jenkins file, declarative pipeline, then Jenkins pipeline unit testing. Find them all at TheCodeForge.io. Thanks for watching. The full article and code examples are covered in detail at TheCodeForge.io.